Hello everyone, thanks for listening. Today I want to talk about gun control. I'm not a gun owner myself, but I am a big believer in rights of the people, and this is one of them. We do have a gun problem, but it's not the one anybody talks about. Right now, up to date as we speak, in Chicago, we have 67 murders to date. That's 1.15 per day. Shot and wounded, 284 to date. That's 4.89 per day. Total shot, 351. That's 6 per day. Total homicides for the year so far, 80. That's 1.38 per day. Chicago is the 4th highest death rate in the U.S. for guns. Don't hear about Chicago though. Not sure why that is. I mean, that should be a big concern. Everybody should be talking about Chicago. Every time something happens like this, we never hear about Chicago. Nobody brings up that point. If you're for gun control, you should have no problem going and living in the south side of Chicago for a week or a month. And, should be perfectly okay with that. I mean, these politicians in Washington, D.C. go and do business in Washington, D.C., but yet Washington, D.C. has the highest gun rate death in 2017. So they're doing their business in the same city that has the highest gun death rate in 2017. But you never hear about it. Never hear about any of that. So I have to ask, is Chicago and D.C. not as important as our schools? They're all important. And the fact that anybody is shot and killed by anybody is disturbing. So we gotta start caring about everybody and not just picking and choosing who we want to exploit on that day. And this comes down to the media. The media is a very huge problem. Always showing the faces and the names of the killers. We don't show the heroes. There was a lot of these people that sacrificed their lives to save children. Never hear about them. We just see the faces of the killers. We should be putting those people up and praising those people, not throwing the killers in our face and giving them time on news. It's a tragedy. Every day somebody dies in Chicago and Washington, D.C. and these places with these high death tolls. I watched that town hall meeting about the shooting, and don't you see one person talking about what guns do for people, or all I see is anti-gun. You're telling me there's not one student in that whole school that says, hey, we need to have guns in the school. I wish somebody had a gun here, or somebody had the guts with a gun to come into the school and help us. No, don't hear that. That's a big problem. Why is it that all these inner city schools that never hear about a school shooting in an inner city school? Never. Why is that? Is it because it's not reported, or is it because it doesn't happen? I mean, in any case, we should wonder and start asking questions. Is it because these kids are getting shot outside of school? I mean, heaven forbid we find that out and start shining a spotlight there. Or is it because a lot of these schools are more prepared to deal with these things, and they have metal detectors, for the kids to walk through when they go into school, and they have maybe more police on hand that are used to dealing with gun violence, and know they are prepared to deal with it in a certain way. And one thing that I do know that connects Washington, D.C. and Chicago and schools is that there are gun-free zones. So you got to question yourself, who has the guns in these gun-free zones that have the highest death rate and these murders every day? I would guess it's probably not the law-abiding citizen. It's probably the criminals. That's just me, though. Heaven forbid we have that thought. So every time I see these people out screaming for guns and we want gun control and all these things, I gotta wonder why they aren't screaming to the politicians in Chicago, we want gun control. Oh, because they have gun control. But they don't care. They're more worried about just screaming about the gun control. They don't care about the people that are dying every day in Chicago, the people that are dying every day in Washington, D.C., and many other cities. It's not just them. We look, Baltimore is another one, high gun rate. We don't care. Go out. We gotta start thinking about these other cities when none of this stuff's in the news. As soon as the news is over, as soon as 2 weeks later goes past, we don't think about it anymore till the next one. And unfortunately, there's another one. We just had, we had one in Maryland where the student came into school, 17-year-old student came into the school, but there was an officer there that had a gun and shot the kid. His name was Blaine Gaskill. That guy's a hero. Saved many lives. 2 were injured. One's still critically injured and is in the hospital. But who knows how many lives he saved? These Texas bombings, and not a gun problem, but people are still dying, and nobody's talking about that. If there is no guns, a crazy person is going to use something else. In Europe, yeah, some countries don't have guns, but they're running over people with cars and running over people with vans. And they're in China not a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I think there was 130 people injured. A crazy person went on a rampage with a knife. So, I don't think I ever heard anybody say that, hey, this crazy person, hey, this completely sane person just shot up a school and killed a bunch of students. I don't think I ever heard anybody say that. A crazy person is going to find a way, if in their head they want to kill people, they're going to find a way to do it. And they're not going to hold anything back. It's going to be a bomb, or it's going to be a car. Imagine, if there's 1,200 students in a school and he sets off a bomb. What are we going to do? All these things could easily happen, but yet we're focused on guns. Does a drunk driver, we going to start taking cars away from people because they're drunk drivers and they killed somebody? There's far more DUI deaths in the country than there is guns murders. Far more. Cancer killed 77,800 people from, let's see here, 1/1/17 to 1/1/18. Gee whiz, I wish we could freaking outlaw cancer. That would be great. Cigarettes, tobacco killed 46,020 people from that same time period. Well, shit, we should probably take away silverware from people, because obesity in that same time period killed 40,366 people. Medical errors, deaths, 3,363 people, 33,066 people. Better outlaw medical equipment and doctors. It's madness. Alcohol, 13,149 people. Diabetes, 10,057 people. Better outlaw some sugar. Man, you see some protests, we start outlawing some sugar. Suicides, 5,624 people. I don't even know what to say there. Drunk driving has killed 4,445 people in that time period. I gotta outlaw those guns, or those cars, for sure. Unintentional poisoning, 4,176 people. I don't even know what to say. Murder by guns, 1,511 was how many in that same time period. Pedestrians crosswalking, 657. Better outlaw those crosswalks. Domestic violence, 192 people. I mean, I don't have the stat here, but I gotta wonder how many opioid deaths we have in that time period. It's just probably something that I need to look up. Shoot, a falling tree killed 19 people last year. Yeah, gotta outlaw those trees. Lawnmower, 9 people. Outlaw lawnmowers. Gotta go back to old-fashioned Amish push mower. I just don't even know. Some of these stats are amazing. So basically, guns killed 0.008% of people. So everything else killed 424,444 people. I don't even know what to say. I mean, we need to outlaw some things, but I don't know that guns are one of them. Especially when guns are the one thing that is keeping the government at arm's length. Because guess what? All these governments, regulations, how well did the war on drugs work out? Not so good. But they're regulating. The same people you want to regulate guns regulates the war on drugs. The only people that are making money on, the only thing that's happening on the war on drugs is people making money that sit in the Senate and the Congress every day. Who owns the prisons? You gotta ask yourself these things. I just don't understand how we allow them and sit idly by and watch these people destroy our country, all for greed and money. Gun control is not the answer. Putting politicians that are corrupt in jail, that's the answer. As soon as that starts happening, we'll see a change. But they keep pushing these gun control laws. And one went through 2 weeks ago. And we gotta be concerned about it, because they basically passed a law. They put a bill through that inside that bill they were allowed to take guns from what if they deemed a veteran mentally ill, they were allowed to go in and seize his guns. So they put that law goes into effect. They put that inside a bill for something else. Didn't hear about that, did we? Nope. But it's law now. So, we gotta be careful. We gotta pay attention to what goes on. All these other things are going on. It's just a distraction. And people aren't paying attention to things like that have passed through. I still haven't heard anybody talk about that. One person. And haven't heard it on the news, didn't see it on the news or nothing. But news are too busy working on all these anti-gun protests and all these things. In Baltimore, somebody donated $100,000 for these kids to go to the gun protest. They're going to pay for the buses and everything to bus these kids. These kids don't have heat. They had to call off school this year because it got too cold because they don't have heat. They're going to school in winter jackets in the classrooms. They don't have books in some of these schools. But somebody that cares about furthering their agenda and sending kids to a protest, not caring about the kids and what they care about, but caring about what they want. They were good enough to donate $100,000 to send them on a field trip, but they didn't care about these kids when they don't have any heat, they don't have any books. We don't care at all. But if I got something I want to protest, but I need some help, well, man, it sounds like a brilliant idea. Send these 15-year-old kids off, and they'll do it. I just don't understand the logic of how we let this go on. These bastards, corruption is everywhere. In Baltimore, I've seen firsthand. It's one of the worst. And they got money. They're $50 million in deficit. Where's this money going with these kids? It's not like these kids are out there and they got Starbucks in their schools and they got every book in the world and they got computers and all this stuff. They got nothing. But we're $50 million in a deficit. Where's that money? Nobody's being held accountable of where that money went? Don't get it. Don't understand. So the rest of this video will be at DTube, and I'll have the link in the description for everybody. You can go over there and watch it. Thanks for listening. Hello, so this is the second part of my video that I'm going to put on YouTube, because if I put it up on YouTube, it's a good chance I'll probably get the video canceled, and plus I only have a 15-minute time period that I can use on YouTube. So I wanted to talk about the Florida shooting and who I believe is responsible for that. My main point with this is that, like, the Broward County officials and the FBI and the police enforcement, the local police enforcement basically let the community down. They accepted this thing called the Promise Program, and with the Promise Program, basically they are allowing students to not be arrested, because the problem was they're having a high arrest total for these students, and if they had a lower arrest count for these students, for the kids at that age group, they would get grants through the state and through the federal government. So basically, it put a price on these kids' heads. That's a problem, because now this kid was reported of committing several felonies, and if the local law enforcement and officials would have allowed this kid the laws to work the way they're supposed to, he would have been arrested, and that would have been on his record. He brought knives and bullets to school several times. He made a couple of terroristic threats on YouTube and was reported to the FBI twice. Law enforcement made 39 visits to his house but never arrested him once. He was had the police called on him several times, 39 times, and police went to his home. He killed animals, several things he could have been arrested for. Any one of those things would have been on his record, and if they would have enforced the law like the law's meant to be enforced, and not sold these kids out for grant money, which who knows where that money went, for probably bonuses for superintendents and principals and who knows what. Nobody's tracking that money. Nobody knows where it went. Sold kids out, though. You see these kids and see dollar signs. You don't see kids and care about their futures and hope, care about their safety. If they cared about their safety, this never would have happened. It has nothing to do with guns. Doesn't even get us to guns. It just infuriates me. We need to hold the FBI accountable. They were called twice, reported twice. This guy made terroristic threats on YouTube and said he was going to shoot up the school. FBI didn't do anything. So who dropped the ball there? Law enforcement, 39 visits. Nothing. Who dropped the ball there? But hey, don't enforce the background check problem the way the law is meant to be. That's what's going to happen. These people in position of power, don't do their job correctly. But we don't hear about protests at the FBI or protests at the police stations. Nothing like that, where they should be protesting first. If they went protest there first, and then went and protested at the FBI, and went and protested at these officials that passed this law looking for this grant money, hey, you want to protest guns too? You've already done everything. I'm all for it. But they're not doing that. So I'm not quite sure how we get from A to Z, A being all these things that happened before the day of the incident, and then Z being, gun control protests and town hall meetings where the only people that are there are protesting guns. What's the probability that not one student said, I wish somebody would have had a gun, or, I had a thought on gun control in different ways than any other people, because they don't want you to see that. Media is the problem too. So I'm putting blame on the FBI, on the officials that passed this law, the law enforcement. They're all in the same boat. They all should be held accountable. They should be losing their jobs. Nobody's going to lose their job. Nobody cares. It's almost like the FBI knew about this and they said, you know what? My theory is, I think they let it happen. They want to take our guns. They want to take freedom of speech, and they want to take this next thing they want to do, the first thing they want to do is take our guns. But freedom of speech is not far behind. And, that's what they want to do. And they're willing to put a price on the head of our children. So what's that say about them? These people, they all should be in jail. If you're going to put a price on my child's head, you should go to jail. No doubt about it. The current background checks would have worked. He never would have got a gun. And if somebody would have done their job properly. I mean, this kid needs help. So not only this kid goes in and does all these things to these other kids, now all these other kids are affected. Parents are affected. Brothers and sisters, wives, husbands, everything. If we would just done our job the proper way and helped this kid, maybe this kid could need, we could have helped him. Probably not. But at least, we would have put him somewhere where he would have got help. So I'm not quite sure how, once again, all these things went down previously to when he went into that school. We're not holding those people accountable. We're not protesting those people. We're not protesting the law enforcement. These officials that sold these kids out for who knows how much money. Once, like I said, nobody knows where that money's going. But here we are. And, none of this is brought up. You don't see, is the news talking about the FBI, or talking about the 39 visits to law enforcement, talking about the fact that the chief of police is, has who knows how many photos with Hillary Clinton, her buddy. Who knows? And this really isn't about Donald Trump, and it's about the government, but they're all in the same boat together. And unless we start standing up and putting this out there and turning off the TV when the news comes on, who cares about what they say? It's not the real news. We don't give a crap. Who cares? These bastards, they're putting a price on our children's head. They're putting a price on our head. They don't care. They're worried about lining their pockets, and that's their bottom line. A mental illness is a huge problem. These people are mentally ill, but you don't hear them talking about that. We have a huge opioid problem. They're taking, every time I see a shooting, the person was on an antidepressant for an antidepressant. They took one antidepressant, but they had to take something to counteract the side effects for the antidepressant. And most of the time the side effects are suicidal tendencies and anger and rage and all these things and aggressive behavior. But we're not worried about that. This is the kind of medication we're giving to our children and our mentally ill people. I'm not sure that, guns is pretty far down on my list. And then these people that didn't hold this kid accountable, they're in charge of taking care of our children and us. I'm not feeling real comfortable about that. This is insanity. But making guns and illegal or that kind of thing, I'm not sure it's going to work. There's been many places. Australia tried to do it, and the only people that are affected were the people that didn't have the law-abiding citizens that lost their guns. Now the criminals have the guns. You're telling me that you don't think if they outlaw guns that criminals aren't going to get guns? Please. Like I said earlier in this video, look at Chicago, look at Washington, D.C., Chicago, gun-free zone, Washington, some of the strictest gun laws in America. And I'm not even talking about statistics from Baltimore and Detroit, places that are going to be, that are like third world countries in America, the gangs and the drugs in these cities is ridiculous. But we don't want to talk about face the real problems in this country, face the real issues. We're too busy sending our kids off to protest, for guns, to take guns, and taking advantage and putting a dollar sign on our kids' heads. Don't care otherwise. So, really want to thank everybody. This is my first video ever. I hope the videos get better. Hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully I gave you some information. I'll put as many links in the description as I can. And hopefully I can do a couple a week or maybe 1 week. I don't know. It depends on my schedule. But I'm going to do more topics like this. I also am big into cryptocurrencies. Love them. And just want to address the issues of what is affecting the American people as a whole, because they're trying to divide us every day by every little thing they can. And the sooner we figure that out and come together as one, which I know is very hard, the better off we're going to be, because then they'll be in trouble. There's a whole lot more of us than there is of them. So thank you very much.